This next panel and final panel of the day, as we near our culmination of today's program, is near and dear to my heart as being the leader of customer success here at Tealium, to be able to sit down with customers and who are going to share stories about their successes. I think it's going to be very insightful and just a delight to hear from them. So let's make some introductions here today. First, I'm happy to introduce Eric Gabrielson, Senior Director of Customer Relationship Management at Floor & Decor.
Hi.
Eric, you can take a seat here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And joining him is Daniel Polino. Daniel is Vice President of Marketing at Bozzuto. Daniel, we're going to have you here. And last but not least, we have Thomas Komen. Thomas is the Senior Director of Marketing Technology at Liberty Mutual. And lucky you, I'm moderating this one.
Yes.
So let's get started. So we're just going to have a little conversation amongst friends. It's actually nice to sit down up here for once today. So let's get to know each of you just a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about your role and what's happening at your organization. Set the stage for us today. Let's start with you. Go ahead, Thomas. You want to start?
Sure. So Tom Komen, I work at Liberty Mutual. If it helps for brand cues, that's like Liberty Bibberty or Limu the Emu. And if you haven't seen that, then I don't know where you are because we've been trying to reach you. But I lead our MarTech team. And MarTech is like kind of a loaded term, so you call it media tech, mad tech, ad tech, whatever you want. But we basically sit within our media team, our media buying team, and we act as kind of like the tech hub for them. The super simplistic way I like to think about it is like we have this big, huge bag of money that is Liberty Mutual's advertising budget, and we have the big, huge space of available media to buy, and we are kind of that little interconnection that makes that money flow from A to B, and the goal is that that happens, efficiently and in a sophisticated way, and that we can measure it when it's happening. And that little pipeline is as cheap as it could possibly be. So no matter how big that big bag of money gets, our little bag of money stays the same. So we always have to make do with what we've got. And so our tech team really focuses on 3 priorities, and they've heard me say these 1,000 times, but it is measurement first and foremost and always, segmentation, targeting, and then when targeting's all done, you go right back to measurement, and that kind of creates like a nice self-sustaining cycle. So that's how we like to think about things, and all of that stuff that I just described kind of comes together with the goal of driving quality consumers to the top of the funnel. And for Liberty Mutual, that is our call center and our internet channel, and the goal is that you buy auto insurance and home insurance from us. That's the objective.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Daniel, how about you?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Daniel Polino, VP of Digital at Bozzuto. Bozzuto is a diversified real estate company. We have various businesses, but the business that myself and my colleagues spend the most amount of our time on is the consumer business. The consumer business, for us, we're property management of very high-end apartment communities throughout the country. We have around 350 communities. Most of those are in urban cores, so think high-rises, think state-of-the-art amenities, best of the best architecture and design, really expensive communities just amongst within the industry. And the challenge that we face is, unlike your business, which people do recognize the brand, with our business, because we're property managers, the communities that we manage, all of those communities have their own unique brand. There's 350 different brands, which also means 350 different budgets for marketing, lead pipelines, yes, 350 different Google Analytics accounts. So it is quite complex. And so we're a brand that is in a space where we're just one little ingredient out of the entire experience. And that creates a lot of challenges for us. So for us, one of the big things is really needing to differentiate ourselves. And all of us at some point probably have rented an apartment. I know I have. And the problem is the better that you do as a property manager, the less your resident or your customer even knows who you are, right? So I know I definitely, out of 3 or 4 different apartments that I've lived in my lifetime, the only property manager that I remember is the one that gave me this absurd fee that made no sense at the end when I was moving out. And I tried to contest it, and I lost. So I had to write them a check. Yes, that was back when you still wrote checks, but I wrote a few expletives in the memo line because I really will always remember who they are. And now that I'm in this industry, I've never told anybody who they are, but I know them very well because of that experience. And that's the thing that is what's interesting about the challenge in our industry is if you do a great job, you don't get remembered. So we're on a journey to be remembered by offering a different experience than what consumers in our industry are used to. And that's part of what we'll talk about today and what we've been exploring with our partnership with Tealium.
Great. Thank you so much. Eric, how about you?
Yeah, Eric Gabrielson. I look after the CRM team at Floor & Decor. We have one Google Analytics account, by the way, which I'm grateful for now. And CRM is a pretty loaded term, right? But it's basically how we use data and technology to create better customer experiences. You know, pretty simple, right? Floor & Decor, maybe you've heard of us, but we've got about 220 stores across the U.S., a little over $4 billion in revenue, and our customers, it's a pretty unique business model because we've got homeowners, you know, people like you and me going into Floor & Decor or to the website to do a project, and we've also got professionals, which make people who make their living with the products that we sell. So that's how we segment our customers at the very highest level. And I mean, our basic situation is that we're already pretty customer centric with our marketing. But we're also never satisfied with what we're doing, and we always want to get better. I mean, all of you in this room know that customer expectations are like sky high, so we're always trying to evolve our customer experience strategy and our first-party data strategy to really meet those high expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about integrating multi-channel data, right? So tell us a little bit about what's happening at Liberty Mutual there.
Yeah, that's been a journey. So Liberty Mutual, obviously like an old company, so a lot of old pipelines and things like that. So what is like maybe a very basic thing for us was really difficult, which is we have Tealium integrated into the internet channel. Our call center just has like no way to make that connection happen. And they recently introduced some new technology there that kind of finally enabled that. And we're like, great, let's make that happen. Let's get the data into there. And we had some basic use cases to give people an idea. It was just like, if you call the call center and you have, 2 homes and 7 cars, like let's get you to a rep who's going to be good at handling that call. And if you're calling about a renter's policy, let's get you to somebody who's going to be more equipped for that policy. And what we ran into right away was that every little path along the way just resulted in failure of some level. So the very, very first thing we did is we tried to, we talked to the team over the call that was managing the call routing. We said like, hey, can we send you, our data? Can we set up an API and send it to you? And they go, no, but if we call you and say like, hey, we have a phone number, can you send us something back? And we're like, Tealium can't do that. I learned now that it can, so can I get that? Because it was really a big problem. So then we had to kind of find a way to get that data. So it was a bit of a journey to get around, and I won't describe like that whole journey. If you want to hear it, Ryan Terrio's over there, and he has all the scars to prove it. But it's been quite the process. And even this morning, I'm still getting emails of like, hey, it's almost there. The data's almost there. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel, anything that you want to share in that
Yeah,
topic?
so in my industry, there's no shortage of data all over our tech stack. We have a lot of different technologies used within our buildings, and because we manage those properties, the existing tech stacks, we a lot of times inherit. And so we're not able to change the tech stack because the owner, we have institutional ownership, which is for our communities, which basically a lot of the investment banks whose names insurance companies, et cetera, they have their tech stack that's lived there, and so we've got to take it over. So because of that, there is just a lot of data silos, which doesn't scale very well for us because we have front-end, front of the house team members across these communities. There's about 3,500 of them. And those individuals have really unpredictable day-to-day. What are they doing at the property is a little bit unpredictable. You've got residents coming in, you've got people walking in with all kinds of issues or wanting to tour, and really scaling out that the data that we've got all over the tech stack is extremely complex, and it lives there, but we haven't really, historically, our industry hasn't been able to activate that data in any way that helps us to become more efficient. So what I always say in our industry that's a little bit different than many other industries is when your portfolio grows by 10%, the operational complexity is another 15 or 20%. It's not a one-to-one ratio, and there's certainly no economies of scale. So for that reason, we've definitely been on this journey to bring in offline data and really aggregate that. So we do have offline conversions. In our industry, unfortunately, we're not working with the CRMs that many of you are, that are best in class. We're working with some dinosaur CRMs that none of you have probably ever heard of. But they're pretty common in our industry, and because of that, it makes it very challenging. These are not tech-forward, digital marketing forward companies that innovate. They're pretty stagnant. So what we noticed was, instead of really, the conclusion we came to is really instead of trying to fight that, let's unify all this data warehouse, CDP. I love how Tealium considers themselves that, that middle layer that isn't really, that is a neutral party, right? Because we're able to do so much with that data. And we're still in our early days of this journey, but we see a lot of really early signs of gaining efficiencies that we've never seen in our industry. So right now, our use cases are primarily revolved around customer acquisition, which is extremely important because in our industry, in the apartment industry, multifamily industry, turnover on an annual basis is around 50%. So we have 110,000 units, apartments across our portfolio. And if you think about that, I mentioned earlier, 350 different GA accounts, marketing campaigns, you're having 50% turnover, and these are very high-priced ticket items, right? An annual lease for us on average is $40,000 plus. So with that, you have a long consideration journey, and you've got to differentiate yourself. And really having all of the intelligence brought into one platform it helps us to really create an environment where we're leveraging that data to curate our audiences and convert them at a lower cost. Those are our initial use cases. Okay. We've got other phases that we're planning out around personalization and loyalty as well.
It's interesting that you talk about that neutral data layer. We had our customer advisory board meeting yesterday, and that was a topic. Eric was there in that room with us, and that was a topic of conversation that we were having because it's a differentiator that we found here at Tealium as well when I'm talking with clients. It's something absolutely that resonates with them, and we're talking about integrating multi-channel. Eric, do you want to talk about things that are happening
Yeah, I think, you've pretty much heard it all day long. I mean, step number one is have a plan for your data, right? You can have all the data in the world, but what are you actually going to do with it? And I should probably be the last person to give this advice. I mean, anyone who has worked with me probably knows that I like to hoard things. I like to collect things in the hopes that it might be useful at some point in the future. That's just my nature. But if you have a really clear kind of vision about what customer experience you want to create, it makes it so much easier. And that's where we started at Floor & Decor, right? So it's like, what do we want to create for our customers? And then what data do we need to really drive that customer experience? And then it's all about finding the data. You know, our customers, like I mentioned before, professional homeowners, they interact with us online in our stores, and this data, just like what you described, Daniel, it's all over the place internally. So trying to, find it, extract it, get it into Tealium, we've actually done a pretty good job at that, and we're getting pretty good at that. And that is really half the battle. And once you're good at that, the activation component, the really fun stuff about activating and driving media, email marketing, it makes it so much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's change topics. Got a couple good topics for us this afternoon to be talking about, but the next one is on experience management. And so Daniel, I'm going to start with you. I know you have some big ambitions in this area, as you and I have been talking about. Tell the audience a little bit more.
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, so I keep talking about how the industry I'm in, we can very much be a commodity if we don't differentiate ourselves. So one of the things that my company is really, for many years, been considered a leader in our industry when it comes to our reputation, not only amongst our peer set, but more importantly, when it comes to our consumers. But one of the challenges that we have is no matter how great we run our properties and the amazing experience that you can have there in person and the way that our that our team members treat you and the hospitality that they extend to you. At the end of the day, one of the things that we know is that there's a lot of churn in this industry. So one of the challenges is really around, as soon as someone, they find another building with a better amenity, or they got a new job, or they need to move closer to family somewhere else in the city, they're starting in somebody else's funnel, right? Or they're starting at the top of the funnel, really going back to Google search or going to apartments.com, and they're not necessarily going to end in ours again. And so one of the reasons that that's become so challenging in our industry is because, again, across these 350 different properties, they're all different brands with their own websites. And so as a resident, you mostly just go to the property website to look up information or to log into your portal to pay or submit a maintenance request. We as the manager, which are the ones that are actually offering you the great experience, we're never taking them to an owned ecosystem. And so that realization to us really kind of started this journey a couple of years ago, where our vision has become essentially becoming the Marriott Bonvoy of multifamily, right? And so with Marriott, it doesn't matter which hotel you stay in. There's brands that are on the lower end of the spectrum, from budget to very luxury. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you stay in. You're still getting loyalty points. You're always going back into their ecosystem for absolutely everything that you need to do, whether it's change your dates, whether it's book your next hotel, vacation, look at your points, et cetera, et cetera. It's all through one platform. And in multifamily, we don't have that. So our journey really is to build something like that, because we believe that tying that in with the amazing way that we actually manage our properties and having an ecosystem that is just as well thought out, that is just as seamless as like an Apple ecosystem and a Marriott Bonvoy ecosystem, that helps to differentiate us. And we definitely see our partnership with Tealium and everything that we're going to be able to unlock there with personalization to be the very backbone of that. That's going to drive so much value. It's going to give our residents something that they never even thought they needed or knew they needed. Because again, people have usually lived from apartment to apartment for a period of years throughout their life, and they're not really thinking about a differentiated experience, because they've only ever experienced that commodity experience, essentially. So we very much believe that with that, we're going to build something that they'll remember.